Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to have some student pledge leaders with us today. So Dominic Check from second grade, Miss Ayers class is with us, and Addison and Rudy Barholic are with us. They're both third graders in Miss Williams and Miss Klein's class. If the three of you want to come up, you can stand right by that microphone. And the rest of us will stand and they can lead us to the pledge. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You did a wonderful job.
Roll call. Okay.
While we're working on getting Mrs. Peter on the phone with us this evening, I'd also like to welcome, we have two student government leaders with us tonight, Chase Miller and Simon Morris. And we'll hear from them when we do our updates from administrators, as well as some of the things happening at the high school that Chase and Simon also are happy to have you.
We'll be doing roll call in a second. Okay.
Terry, when you're ready, roll call.
Mr. Booker.
Yes, good.
Dr. Faulkner.
Here.
Mr. Garland.
Here.
Mrs. Heater. Here. Mr. Hoffman.
Here.
Mr. Wrigley.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Valdez.
Here.
Dr. Lee.
Here. Run 3 minutes from January 3rd, 2024 board meeting. The board will take action to approve the meeting minutes from January 3rd, 2024, the board meeting as presented. Do I have any motions?
Like a motion from the table.
I'll second. Okay, vote.
Mr. Booker. Dr. Faulkner.
Yes.
Mr. Garland.
Yes.
Mrs. Heater. Yes. Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Wrigley.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Mr. Valdez.
Yes.
Dr. Lee.
Yes. 2.1, student recognition. The board will take action to recognize the DHS bocce ball team.
So I'd like to welcome Ms. Klein and Ms. Henrik, who are our bocce ball coaches. If you could come forward and tell us a little bit about the bocce ball team, and certainly we want to recognize our students that are with us today.
I just got messaged. There are issues currently with the live stream audio. People are having trouble hearing. If there are any corrective action we can take to allow people to hear everything that's being said by the board and the public, we would greatly appreciate that.
Some of the microphones need to be turned on. Tonight we have
Tap those lines. Yeah.
Tonight we are lucky to have some of our bocce team members here. We finished our regular season game yesterday against Mount Carmel, and we are waiting to hear on the Division League results to see where we stand and if we continue on this journey with the season. And I am lucky to have with us Garrett Hoffman, David Souza, Sarah Lehal, Colby Wildhonor, and Noah Weigel. And we have Miss Klein, and I would like to also say that we have Miss Dana Ernest, who also helps as an assistant coach throughout the season, and she just couldn't be here this evening. But I would like to say to everyone, it's one of the most it's one of the most special parts of my year when I get to go to the games and to see the kids and just how far we've come. We've started the whole 3 years ago, and we had barely enough to form one team. And we had 6 players, and we had to rotate through. And now we have enough players that we have 2 teams, and we have our odds this year. David probably knows our standings more than anybody, and he could probably speak to our standings. But we've done very well this season. I think we've only lost two matches. I knew David would have it. We've only lost 2 matches, and we're just hopeful that we can keep playing. And Mrs. Klein would like to speak to something.
She kind of said a lot of what I was going to say, but it was really cool to see how we started out with 6 and now we're up to 16 plus a couple extra. And just to see the relationships and friendships that have been made. We have some students that still come back into the classroom just to visit and hang out with the kids. And Miss Wenrick has been a huge help in kind of getting this off the ground.
Thank you, everybody.
And the amount of support that we have from the high school and the school board. Thank you for allowing us to continue with this. It has been great. I know one of the team members said to me just the other day, he's a junior, and he said, Garrett wishes that he would have another year so he could continue with this because he got involved this year. And I said maybe we could redshirt him, but I don't. I don't know where we stand for that for bocce. So, but thank you to everybody, and thank you to all the kids, and it has been a great season.
Thank you so much.
I probably didn't read it. I probably didn't, honestly, I probably looked at it, skimmed through it, and didn't even read the content.
Thank you all so much for being with us.
So 2.2, reports, board administrative announcement. I believe there's a slight error in the program. The Finance and Budget Committee, it's not you. That's Richard. It's Rich. So Rich, anything to report?
Yes, we had a meeting January 11th. We went over the AFR. We discussed the budget timeline, how we're going to be looking at our upcoming budget. We went over the earned income tax collections also, where they're coming in at currently. The fund balance update, the debt service also. Next meeting is tomorrow night. And one item that I will be discussing with you guys, all the committee members, is possibly having another meeting this month to be able to move the schedule before our board meetings, not a month in between.
Academic affairs, Mrs. Heater?
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
So our last meeting was held on January 18th, and we discussed basically 4 main things. We discussed the DPS curriculum. Mr. Moser had revised it from the original version, and it was accepted. Or not accepted. I was totally pleased with what revisions they made, and it was really aligned to evidence-based practices, which is great. Another thing that we talked about was, as you know, last year we approved 2 new roles. We split one of the roles and had approved for the 2 intervention and special education principals. So Ms. Weinrich was able to show data that supported that now she's able to work with teachers in their classrooms, which is great. And she also explained that before that she couldn't. So really for us, it's a win for Danville teachers to have them be able to support them academically to help all our students succeed. We discussed student behavior at all buildings to see if any additional supports were needed. Liberty Valley middle school and high school principals stated that they don't need any additional assistance and that the behaviors were fine. DPS's principal stated there were some issues, but she's working through those. We also revisited the high school schedule. We had talked about it back in the fall about the idea, it was brought up about a possible 8-period day to improve, provide more opportunities for students to take those AP classes versus the 7-day period that we presently have. But the majority of the attendees spoke very highly of the 7-day period, and they felt that it was working effectively and providing opportunities. And we also heard that there's some great news that DPS and Liberty Valley principals are seeing growth in their students' literacy scores, which is amazing. That's it.
Great, thank you. Buildings and Grounds Committee, Daryl?
Yes, we had a meeting. We discussed a few things. We talked about the grant that we have received, which helped to put some safety glass in the offices around Liberty Valley. It's not bulletproof glass, but you can't see in. You can only see out. So somebody intruding the building will not know what they're going to do for sure. It's all guesswork now until they're picking somebody out. They won't be able to see. We also had talked about where the sidewalks are cut out for handicap accessible, about putting barriers up around them when not in use, ones that can be removed to back trucks in for unloading and loading. So that's something that has been looked to, and I think there's grants that's already been out there and approved to put monitors on doors, safety locks, so if someone lets it open, someone will be notified in the school, and somebody needs to go close it so we don't have somebody just walk in out of nowhere. That's the main part of it. Thank you.
Athletics and Extracurricular Committee?
We had a meeting January 11th. Also, we went over scoreboard updates. We had an Athletics Hall of Fame bylaws review. Also discussed the field trips in the upcoming. Also discussed a maintenance program for the long term for the track. Discussed where we stand with the tennis courts. Discussed some coach resignations and also the Ironman 2717 club. Also, the same thing goes, as I said, for the finance. Looking at having another meeting, same night with the finance, but having a second one in February here to get it ahead of the board meetings.
Do you think it's worth having a repeat discussion about the school board? I mean, at the scoreboard? Do you think we're at the stage where we could actually, if we thought that?
We're getting there.
Okay. You want to let us know when we should actually
We're getting
move
there.
forward?
Yeah, we're getting there, I believe.
Because I was starting to hear burblings. It sounded like we might be close to
Jason, might as well just ask you now. We asked for more quotes.
We have reached out. I've reached out to 2 more companies. Have not received actual quotes yet, but I would anticipate those in the next week or so. At this point in time, really the 2 quotes that we have that are firm with actual models, right in the same price range with a little bit of difference variation for that third. One of them requires a third party. One of them does not.
Yep.
So not quite there yet.
We're getting there.
Okay. Health and Wellness Committee, Dr. Faulkner?
We haven't met. We're going to go on a quarterly basis, so I think the next steps we'll figure out, we'll probably map out the meetings for the rest of the year, get with the administration, map that out, and build an agenda for our first meeting for the first quarter.
Great. Long Range Planning Committee?
Yes, we had our first meeting. We had quite a few topics we discussed. We have the land across from the primary now is ours. That was closed in December. And we did have a feasibility study done back in 2021, which I have right here. We probably should take a look at another feasibility study of all of our buildings, land, building capacity. These are usually accepted at the state level for 2 years, so it's a little bit out of the compliance of the old Plan-Con process, which is the way districts got reimbursed for new construction. Plan-Con's not funded anymore, so we're not under that, the auspices of that, but it is probably time to do that. So I think we should probably put a request for a proposal out to at least get a study done. We're not bound to anything until we see what the price is, what the scope is of what they would do. We did talk about that. Got a little fiscal update, which I think you've kind of talked about a little bit in your finance committees. I think you're just going to have to come to the realization that there's going to have to be some discussions about what we're going to do in the future with capacity as our enrollment drops and where we stand with some of our buildings. This one made a recommendation that was rejected a few years back, and it was $47 million for moving the middle school students up here, I believe, and making it a 7 to 12 building and closing the middle school down. I don't know if we're going to go down those discussions or not and get into that type of depth, but we need to study before we can even start to discuss it, because we really don't know exactly what the condition is at this point. So, and I think that discussion was probably accelerated a little bit when Dr. Need, I'm going to refer to you, when Mr. George talked about some of the issues that we have with the middle school syncing with other buildings, and that started us thinking that maybe we need to talk about this more sooner than later, because we don't want to invest huge amounts of money down there if we're not committed long term. All right, so that's that. We are going to have a second meeting, and I believe we'd also like to at some point get additional community input, and maybe pull some community people in as quasi-members to that committee. We'll probably be ready to do that within the next month or two, I would think, maybe by May. And we'll continue with monthly meetings, and we also talked about the possibility, if we are going to move with athletic-type facilities across from the primary, if that's something that comes out of that we wanted to get into private-public partnerships, maybe some donors that would help to alleviate any costs, because that was the initial vision, I believe, when we purchased a purchase agreement on the land. It took us 5 years to actually purchase it, and that's it for long-range planning. Anybody have a question? Questions?
Do we have a need? In the
Yeah.
courthouse?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Burkhardt. CMAVTS, Mr. Garman.
Yeah, last month's meeting wasn't too exciting as far as outside districts that contribute. They talked a little bit about the construction, that they're finally getting their doors put up after a bunch of hoops jumped through and issues with locks and, yeah, the whole 9 yards. The security up there for the entrance to the school, they're finally dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's with. Other than that, it was just they're in the process of hiring an IT person. That was pretty much 80% of the meeting, trying to figure out what they want to do and what they don't want to do. That's about it.
I'd like to add, I did attend, I don't know if you
Yeah,
were aware of it. I did attend through Zoom. They are moving forward in their budget process, so we will be expecting somebody from VOTEC here in probably the next month or so. They are anticipating an increase, so I'm just letting you guys know on that. One other thing also on security, they are getting ready to bring in some drug dogs to sweep the building up there too, so on a regular basis. That's all.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. CSIU, Dr. Faulkner.
Yeah, I was, we met this past month. I was officially appointed onto the board at that meeting. Some of the highlights worth noting, the CSIU has put forth their strategic plan from 2024 to 2027. That's open for public review and comment up until the end of this month. And then they got a sort of a first of its kind grant from PDE for about $379,000 to establish a new teacher program that it will really focus on workforce development. We know there's this teacher shortage, and so they got a pretty substantial grant that they're going to be rolling out over the next couple of years to try to increase the workforce for teachers.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Faulkner. EITC, Mr. Garman.
Nothing yet.
Okay. Head Start, Mr. Reichert.
Yes, Head Start, everything was pretty much the same, except the change of the program scope for reducing number of Head Start children has been approved. It finally went through, so now they're down to the number that we can actually fulfill. The total funding enrollment for Head Start and pre-K count is 86. Head Start and pre-Ks are both full enrollment at this time.
Great. And CS Trust, Mr. Hoffman?
No, there's been nothing yet.
Okay. 2.3, appointment of CSIU representative. The board will take action to appoint Samuel Faulkner as the Danville area representative to the Central Susquehanna Intermediate Unit Board of Directors for the term beginning July 1st, 2024. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Dr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Mr. Garman,
Yes.
Mrs. Heater,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak,
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart,
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. 3.1, the enrollment report. This is the superintendent's enrollment report.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan, you could go ahead to the next screen. So thank you to our pledge leaders that were here. You could continue to move forward. And also, again, welcome to Chase and Simon this evening. Thank you for being with us. Thank you to the bocce ball team for being with us. And then we'll take a look at some enrollment reports. So if you just want to, there we go. These are our numbers here in our 4 buildings as well as at Votech. You will see the number in parentheses like I've done in previous presentations being where we were a month ago and then the new number where we are now. You'll see that our numbers are extremely stable across K through 12. And if you look at the next screen, you'll also see that we remain relatively stable when it comes to our non-public enrollment report as well, as we examine outside cyber charters, Christian schools, special programs, Amish schools, nature school, and homeschool have been extremely steady throughout the school year. If you take a look at the next slide, Governor Shapiro did do a state budget address. And this starts the budget process for the state. Unfortunately, as the budget process goes, we may not actually know how much we're getting from the state till well after we have to pass our budget. That's kind of the fun process, but this begins the process. So if you want to go to the next slide, you'll see this kicks off the budget process. And in 2 weeks, the chambers will start having budget hearings. And they have budget hearings on the specific items, and so they can learn more about education initiatives, transportation initiatives, all of the different topics within the budget. And there's discussion. Many of those hearings are open to the public if you're someone that's, really interested in being an active member of the state. But some things that specifically affect us in the education world. He did propose a $1.1 billion increase in basic ed funding. It would be the greatest single-year increase in ed funding in PA's history. However, you may not know that over the last decade, there has been a lawsuit in the state of Pennsylvania about the basic ed funding system being unconstitutional. There was a ruling within the last year that it is unconstitutional. So he is proposing this $1.1 billion increase to right that wrong, if you will. The ruling came from examining practices about districts that educate high numbers of students in poverty, high numbers of English language learners, or other kind of special needs groups, demonstrating that in those districts they were generally spending less per pupil than in wealthier districts. So he's proposing an increase to basic ed funding to right the wrongs of the past, if you will. I don't know that Danville specifically would see a tremendous increase there, but that is something that's happening across the state. If you go to the next screen, just some of the other things that affect us in the world of education. He is proposing a cap on cyber charter tuition at $8,000 per student. That would have an impact on our budget, and there would be districts across the state that would have a tremendous impact on their budget. So when a student goes to a cyber charter, the district does have to pay that tuition, and $10,000 is about the cheapest you currently see in tuition, with it greatly increasing for students with special needs. So a cap on $8,000 could present a significant savings to public school districts. He's proposing $50 million for school safety and security. He's proposing $300 million for sustainable school building repair. We had talked about some of the things that had gone through the House and the Senate at a previous meeting, and there's some specific bills that describe the kind of school building repair you'd need to know. I think this would be something worth examining in our long-range planning committee. He's proposing $10 million for teacher recruitment. That would fall in line with some of the things Dr. Faulkner's speaking about with like the grant that the IU got. That would be additional funding for things like that. Proposing $15 million for student teacher stipends to attract people into the field of education. So that proposal would be that students could apply that money to their tuition while they are student teaching. He's proposing $100 million in mental health funding in schools, proposing to continue the free breakfast program across the state, also increases in special ed funding and increases in pre-K funding. So throughout the next few months, there will be hearings in both the Senate and the House to discuss each of these particular initiatives. There'll certainly be lots of back and forth, and it's usually kind of late summer, early fall till we find out exactly what we're getting from the state. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Moser, who's going to tell you all about our PCCD grant. I'm sorry.
Can I interject
Of course.
one thing real quickly? I was able to pull the file. I really appreciate your summary. It was fantastic. The adequacy number that every district has in the governor's proposal for Danville is 0, meaning they think we have enough money, apparently. Right. So I just caught that.
I would say, based on the description of what they're describing as underfunded districts, we didn't meet that qualification.
No.
But certainly happy for students across Pennsylvania, but.
Very.
Just as last year, the state has decided to allocate funding for PCCD grants. These are very specific areas that the money needs to be spent on. And so essentially what you have, if we go to the next slide, 2 areas. One, which is basically physical security, and one which is behavioral mental health. And what you'll see is the actual dollar amounts allocated to our district through this new grant. So this is new money. And the initial grant is by the end of this month, we'll be inputting that and wrapping it up and submitting it. And then we'll work through the process of revisions as they go. One thing to consider here, we have $40,000 for physical security, which is a lot less than what was allocated last year, and $128,455 for behavioral mental health upgrades. As with last year, this money must be spent in a manner that addresses highly specified tiers within categories. This is not just revenue that we get to inject and decide how we're going to spend it. They tell us, you have to do this, and then you can do this, and then you can do this. So it is very clearly delineated and outlined by the state as to what types of upgrades and or personnel these funds have to be spent on. Of course, there are some definite advantages to that. There are physical upgrades, physical safety upgrades that we can certainly do. One of the things that is challenging is in some of those tiers and some of those categories, it does require if you're going to use the funding to add distinct personnel. Now, not that we would not want to add personnel in those categories, but if the state is not committed to necessarily continuing to fund those positions, it poses a challenge of, okay, how are we going to absorb that if state funding is to go away in future years, so that we don't provide something that then goes away that has become relied upon. So we want to be very careful about those types of decisions. Certainly this year, probably far more so in the behavioral mental health categories. There are, like I said, there are very specific tiers that have to be met before you can spend that money on the next item. After we write that, once we submit that and once we start moving down the road of approval, we will certainly update the board on what exactly those specific areas are, as outlined by the steps that PCCD puts out.
Have they given any indication about what might be coming down the road, or are they just saying, hey, you got it this year, flip a coin next year?
It's kind of a year-to-year basis.
Yeah. Okay.
It's pretty much a year-to-year basis. Now, what I will say is there's not much of a difference. I don't remember the exact amount here for behavioral mental health. That seems to be a more consistent number with last year. than what the $40,000 was for physical security. Last year, the two numbers were about the same.
They were about $130-some thousand each.
Yeah. Did they give you a reason for the cut in physical?
No.
Or-
What I would say is this is really the intent behind this grant as I read it and interpret it. And I mean, I'm certainly not an expert, so there are other people who might know a better idea than me. The way that they tier this out and specify the steps is to ensure that schools don't inject that revenue to pay for something that they almost already have so that they can pay for something else. So basically, this is not a way to supplant what you're already spending money on. It's really for specified enhancements. You can go to the next slide, please, Mr. Ryan. The next area that we'll speak about briefly tonight, but we'll be spending a lot more time on over the next month, specifically at our next Academic Affairs Committee meeting, and then summarizing again this information at the next board meeting in March would be our mid-year assessment data. So if we go to the next slide, please, Mr. Ryan, just as an overview, mid-year assessments are almost 100% completed as of today. I believe there is still one assessment that was around 97% completed, so pretty close to getting as accurate as information as we can on our students' performance levels right now, ability levels. Just as an overview and a reminder for the board, in line with our assessment calendar, the types of assessments that we give two different types essentially. One, which is criterion reference, which is seeing how students measure against given benchmarks, regardless of whether that's in the primary school all the way up through the high school. And then we give norm referenced, which compares our students' performance to the same students at the same grade levels across the country, wherever they took that same test. Norm reference really gives us a great idea about growth of a student, even if it's within a category, whereas the benchmark assessments tell us, are they on grade level or not? But it's sort of limited to that piece of information in one snapshot. When you get norm referenced data, you can see, okay, the student might still be below grade level, but they significantly closed gaps, or those gaps still have not closed at all. So very powerful information moving forward for our building leaders, for our classroom teachers to be able to plan instruction and assessment so that we can continue to work towards closing those achievement gaps for all of our students. At DPS, we do DIBELS for reading, and we do that 3 times a year. We also do the iReady math diagnostic and the core phonics assessment. So again, a lot of powerful information there. At Liberty Valley, we do CDTs for both ELA and math, and NWEA MAP growth for ELA and math. At the middle school, it is CDTs and iReady diagnostics. And then at the high school, it limits a bit because we have 3 tested subject areas according to the state standards. But we do give CDTs in Keystone Literature, Keystone Algebra, and Keystone Biology. So comprehensive results of all these assessments will be shared at February's Academic Affairs Committee meeting, and then again a summary of those at the next board meeting in March.
Thank you, and now I'll turn it over to Mr. Gump, and then we can hear from each of our buildings. And again, board members, I did share electronic copies of administrators' board reports, as well as they're physically located in your folders. But each of our administrators will just share a highlight from their building.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I think what I'll share this evening is if the program of studies and course selection guide is approved this evening by the school board, then essentially that will kick off our scheduling season at the high school. And so what we'll do is we will begin with our juniors, then work all the way down to our 8th graders. So as of right now, our plan is to, as I mentioned last month here and at the board meeting, is we want to continue to promote the programs and the things we have going on at the high school to the best of our ability. So this year, we're hoping to provide a parent night at each grade level to be able to have a smaller group of people that we can work with and answer questions about, again, the programs that we have and the courses that we offer at our high school. So currently, and this is tentative, but we're trying to thread the needle on a really good night for our junior parents. Right now, we're thinking maybe Wednesday, February 21st might be a good night for a parent night with some activities that are going on throughout the high school. So again, we're going to try to firm that up as soon as possible. We don't have dates set for sophomore and freshman at this time, but we do have our 8th grade parent night and move up day all coordinated right now with the middle school. So we're excited to get that rolling and so on. And our plan is to have schedules in students' hands by, if it's May at some point. We really want our students to be able to go into the summer this year, knowing pretty much that they have the courses that they need for the following year. So again, very excited for that. So that's on the academic side. Mr. V is going to once again share a cultural highlight from the high school.
Yeah, so in the winter, we had to cancel our event because of the water main break. So students and our advisors got together and said, let's try to supplement that over the course of the spring semester here. So on February 16th, we are going to hold our basically a they had referred to as our holidays reboot. So basically, it's not going to be quite as long as of an event. So it's going to be from 12 o'clock on, but we're also going to include a academic pep rally, which will highlight a lot of the highlights from over the course of the fall and in the winter of a lot of the accomplishments of the students, not only from a athletic standpoint, but also from an academic standpoint, which is really quite neat. So the class advisors and along with the student government are planning that event along with me so we can get that ready for February 16th. And then the other thing that on your newsletter, you often see the little video that I put up at the top about some different cultural things that we're doing within the buildings. Each month I take that video and I send it to Jostens, hoping and wishing that basically we would have eventually get picked for a grant that they put out each month to schools. And for January we won the grant, which is $500, which isn't mind-boggling, but it's going to be kind of cool so that we can supplement some of the things we're doing. So it's kind of exciting to win that award. So
Thank you so much. And our student representatives can tell us about the events of the high school.
Hello, I'm Chase Miller. I'm the treasurer of the junior class, and I just wanted to go over what we did in January. So we participated in the Jostens Renaissance, which was the teachers took turns like snowballing each other, like going to rooms and like giving them treats and taking pictures and stuff. And we won that competition, got a $500 prize. And this month was more of like a planning month with all the breaks and snow days and everything. So we used this month as kind of like planning for the future, like prom and stuff.
Thank you.
My name is Simon Morris. I am the vice president of the junior class, and I quickly want to go over our academic pep rally, what our junior class is doing, and also the Forge On Festival in May. Firstly, we've been meeting every week during Flex to help plan this academic pep rally, and we're really excited for it. It's to help boost our school spirit and just the culture of our school, which we do need a lot. As a junior class, we've also been playing prom, which it's been a lot of fun. One thing I would like to know is that this year we're having promenade at this high school, and the dance will be at Frosty Valley. And for our Forge On Festival, it's going to be similar as our homecoming carnival, but this time in May to celebrate everyone finishing their keystones and end-of-year tests.
Thank you so much. This academic pep rally that you're hearing so much about is truly being led by the class advisor or the class officers from each of our classes. So exciting to think about an upcoming student-led pep rally. So thank you both so much for being here. And for one more item, sorry.
As the junior class officers, we've enjoyed planning events and bringing more fun to the school and school spirit. We've done several new things this year, and one of my favorite things was paper plate awards, which was we all made our own award on paper plates, decorated it, and then all the students in the school took turns voting on who you think would win this award, like best decorator or most likely to win Dance with the Stars, stuff like that. So that had a lot of like school spirit and stuff. And we think that the flex time we have at the end of the day is really important, especially to us, because we use that time to plan. Like now we're using to plan prom, and we used it before for everything else that we did. But I think that the flex is an important part of our day, especially for me personally, for my mental health. It helps me de-stress at the end of the day. It gives me a chance to unwind and unpack everything I did that day. I can get a head start on my homework, and I think it's just a perfect way to end my day at the school day. And finally, please go over our sports end-of-year reviews.
Thank you. We'll turn it over to Mr. Snover to talk about the middle school.
All right. Good evening, everyone. First thing I will highlight in the board report is, at the Academic Affairs Committee meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about discipline data at all school levels. And we talked about the middle school as well. And I'm not going to go into too many details on that. One thing I want to highlight, and it's probably fairly accurate to all schools in the district and probably in general, and that is, as you can see, a very, very small percentage of students are really the ones that are ultimately responsible for the vast majority of disciplinary incidents that occur. The one that I want to point out, which was the largest number when we talked about the discipline reports, like the classroom level offenses that would result in lunch detentions and in some cases after school detentions. 5% of our students were responsible for 50% of those disciplinary infractions, which is good in the sense that we have a small number of students that are the repeat offenders again and again. And on the second good part of that is 95% of the students, which are responsible for the other 50%, usually have one or two infractions and learn their lesson and go on and have very productive class time after that. So the data part of that, of course, is focusing on those small numbers that we seem to have kind of a revolving door and repeat infractions, and how do we appropriately tier that discipline? How do we appropriately level that so that we're being fair to not only all the other students and adults, but fair to the students who are having the infractions, because of course the goal is to correct that and get them back on track so that they can learn. The second thing I'd like to talk about, I would like to point out we just had our winter pep rally just last Friday. It was a huge success. Big thank you to Tom Haravi here, who was the MC of that pep rally. The middle school gymnasium, in case you've never been in there, there's no sound dampening, there's no sound absorption at all in that. It gets really loud with even just a few students in it, but when you put 500 plus in there and encourage them to get as loud as they possibly can, it's rather deafening. But it was a lot of fun, and I think the students had a really good time. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schnover. If you want to just pass to Ms. Wenrick. And I'd just like to thank Ms. Wenrick. Her position is our elementary principal of intervention and special education. She does an outstanding job at that. With a opening for our secondary principal of intervention and special education right now, she has been covering special ed K-12 for us. So thank you to her for that work, and happy to hear your update.
So the big thing is we've been in a lot of meetings, K through 12, and it's been nice to work with all of the building level principals again that I haven't seen since last school year. So it's been great. But it's been great seeing you, but it's time to go. Okay. I'm just kidding. The one big thing is I'm going to speak for the elementary. Elementary is we are in the process of starting our early intervention. And early intervention is students who are identified pre-K. So they will be coming in. We have meetings to introduce the families to the school district Monday and Tuesday of next week. And we have currently 22 kids registering to come in. And once they register, we will start the enrollment process and the evaluation process. So that's where we're kind of at right now. Additionally, since the last Academic Affairs Committee, shared drives have been created and interventions are slowly being dropped into those files to provide interventions for reading, math, social emotional, and executive functioning. It's to hopefully be able to roll it out for next year.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Reiner, Liberty Valley.
I have two quick things to talk about. The first thing is just to go over our Friday Fun Day that we recently had at Liberty Valley. We have 500 students at Liberty Valley who work extremely hard throughout the school year. And as you saw a little bit earlier with Mr. Moser's report, they take several assessments throughout the year. And we just took our CDTs as well as our MAPS testing. And as the building principal, I recognized that we needed to have a little bit of fun. So last Friday, we spent the entire morning, and the students had an opportunity to play an extra game of kickball. If you know anything about 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, they love kickball. And in addition to that, we actually spent time making bestie bracelets, our acronym for our expectation for the building is BEST. And I am wearing one of the bracelets. The kids got the chance to make these bracelets. I'm only wearing one, but I left that day almost up to my elbow in bracelets from the students. It was a really great day, but just a way for us to basically thank them for working hard, and just an opportunity for us to recognize that it is a lot of work to be in class all day. So we just wanted to show them that we recognize that, and they deserved a little bit more fun than usual. The next thing that I wanted to highlight from my board report is our professional development, specifically text-dependent analysis, writing professional development. Liberty Valley, our ELA team, and myself, we have spent numerous after-school professional developments this winter, developing and implementing a TDA system of writing that not only meets the PA state standards, but is a system of writing that provides our students with a stress-free writing experience, which is incredibly important for us, for our students to be able to write, but also enjoy writing, which is something that, based on past scores and just talking to our students, was something that wasn't the case before. So we spend a lot of time with that. But the thing about this process is that I want to highlight is that not only are we working to establish a strong writing process at Valley, but we are actually working with the middle school. So Melissa Nugent, myself, and our ELA lead, Brandon Long, have been meeting. We actually have a meeting tomorrow. But we have been meeting to talk about not only developing this process at Liberty Valley, but making sure that our 3rd, 4th, and especially our 5th graders at this point leave Liberty Valley with not only a foundation of writing that's going to help them do well as a 5th grader, but is one that's going to take them to the middle school. So we've been working with Melissa Nugent. If you know her, she's a fantastic writing teacher. And we have just, like I said, been working together to make sure that our students are learning the foundations they need as 5th graders, but foundations that are going to carry them to be successful as 6th graders, 7th graders, 8th graders. So kind of bridging that gap between elementary school and middle school.
Thank you, Dr. Reinert. And Mrs. Geis.
Hi, everyone. This past month, I've been focusing on attendance at the primary school to try and improve our attendance rates. Usually we have attendance meetings that are held via the phone. A lot of times parents don't answer, or I can't get a hold of them. So this past month I tried something new and held in-person attendance meetings, and it's been very successful. Over the past 2 weeks I've met with 11 families. And even in January, with all of the illnesses, COVID and flu going around, our attendance rate went up to 95.05%. So we've had a lot of success with that. Something else that I wanted to highlight was the hard work that our reading specialists have been doing with our Title I students, they've been using a new program called UFly, which is based out of the University of Florida. It's an explicit, systematic program that teaches students the foundational skills necessary for proficient reading. And this is, again, just used with our Title I students. So we looked very closely at the data just to see if this new program was working, because it's only been used for the first couple months of school. And I'll just share some of the data quickly with you. So in kindergarten at the beginning of the year, there were 73 students who needed some intense help. Out of those 73, 42 of them were intensive. And after our mid-year testing, that number from 42 went down to 16. And then there were some kiddos who were strategic. There were 31 kiddos. That number went down to 15. And out of those 73 kiddos, 40 of them are now core, which means that they don't need any additional reading support. So I won't go through all the data. It'll be shared next month at the Academic Affairs, but I just wanted to say thank you to our reading teachers and for all the hard work that they're doing. And really quickly, our primary school is having a sweetheart dance this Saturday for all the families. This is something new that we're doing, and as of last night, we had 381 students and parents signed up. So if you love to dance, please join us Saturday night at the high school from 5 to 7.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Geis and Mrs. Marshall.
Okay, I just want to do a shout out to one of our parents, Stephanie Sekulis. She asked the children in her child's classroom to color a picture of a winter hat. So they got to color it however colorful they wanted, whatever pattern they wanted. She took all of the pages home and knit each of the students a hat and brought them back in. There's a picture of them in the board report, but they were so excited and just amazed that whatever they drew is now one of their hats. So it just was really nice of her to do that. That she probably knit like 20 hats, so the time, I can't knit at all, so I can't even imagine the time that it took to do that. But just was really neat to have a parent come in and just see the joy on the kids' faces.
Thank you so much. And then finally, Mr. Ryan.
All right, real quick, as far as technology goes, it was a pretty quiet month, which is good. Performance was good. Two things that kind of stick out for this month. Over December, we put out a new app for our help desk. Seems to be, it's easier to use. And what's nice is we constructed it in-house, and that gives us the ability to do some more analytics. You'll see some of those numbers in the board report that kind of gives us an idea where, problem spots are throughout the district that we can kind of get ahead of the game and be proactive where there's, some breaks and things happening that, we can get to it before it becomes a problem. So that was a big thing. Secondly, our communication system was kind of like in two pieces. For a while, we were evaluating FirstNet devices in Liberty Valley and high school for about 6 months, going back to last year for a little bit. And just in the past, few weeks, we got the last of the devices in all of our buildings. So now we have one uniform. There was like an interoperability kit that allowed them to work together, but now we have consistent devices all over our entire district. We already have links with that system to Montour County, so we're going to look to also, hook that up with our fire and police departments to kind of get a consistent communication platform. So when we do, massive drills and help us all if we ever have an actual big emergency that we can, have a consistent communication method. So that was a big thing. And that's about it. It's been really good performance, and everything else is right where it should be, and we're real busy.
Thank you so much to the whole team. That concludes our report.
I have a couple questions, just for clarification. On the middle school report, under disciplinary data, it says approximately 8% of our students are responsible for all in-school suspensions for the year. What's the total number then? Yes.
Around there.
Okay, and then total out of school? Okay, so that way we know what the actual number is for the middle school. Thank you.
And one of the things I will note is that at Academic Affairs, the numbers that were presented were inflated, and we're not sure exactly why, but the way that report was pulled out of Sapphire, there were certain codes that got doubled up. So when you dug into the details of the spreadsheet, it looked a lot worse than what it actually was in reality, although
It didn't look that bad in the first place, so it's nice to hear that it's even better than
Yes.
it looked. I just wanted to I was going to say this before that, but I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge all the principals who ended up coming to Academic Affairs and the good job, not only taking extra time to come to Academic Affairs to present, but I thought your presentations were excellent, and I appreciated you looping in the Academic Affairs on all the things that you are doing well and all the things that we're sort of struggling a little bit with. So I just want to note that I appreciate that, and the board as a whole appreciates that.
And I would also echo, having been, of course, at the Academic Affairs meeting, one of the things that I walked away feeling the most impressed about was a commitment to systematically addressing the needs of all students. I think whether we're talking about reading or math or writing or behavior or their social skills, emotional regulation skills, I mean, I think you mentioned building a database of interventions. Like, that sounds freaking incredible. But that's just one small piece of the efforts that you guys are doing to systematically address. And this was not just, of course, everybody who was at that meeting talked about the ways that they're systematically addressing the needs of all kids and making sure that it's not that you are focusing on kids who have a little need, a little more need, and a lot of need in whatever the topic is, and not letting it get to the point where problems are bigger than they should be, because we're trying to catch it on the front end by using evidence-based interventions, making data-based decisions. I really was impressed. And I think that's the standard in education, and of course we're not across the finish line, never will be, but real legitimate efforts by everybody at that meeting to move in that direction. So that's it.
Any other comment? Okay. 4.1, public comment. Let me just remind, it's for agenda items only. Do we have any public comment?
How you guys doing? You guys know who I am? I'm Richard Brown.
Agenda item? Or
I'm going to speak. I'm going to speak.
So we have public comment at the
I
end.
understand that. I understand that. I just want to speak and say my little 2 cents. I'm in a district. I have 4 kids here. I coach a little bit for the Ironman football team. With your suspensions and your interventions, I know we just came out of this pandemic still, and we're trying to get our data accurate and everything like that. But of the people who are suspended and have problems like that, this is Black History Month, and I said something about it at the last meeting. How many of those people are minorities and have problems within the school district, Mr. Stover? Do you know? Okay. So my question is, can we do something about Black History Month just to give a little recognition so we can help the kids that seem to be consistently in a minority status, who seem to always get in trouble year after year after year after year? Again, I've been here since 2012. I substitute taught in the district a little bit. I think I have a little understanding about how some things work. I work with Ms. Latour. I work with the other superintendent. I'm trying to work with you a little bit. I think that you guys are doing an excellent job overall as a whole. There's no district that can come close to this district, okay? I'm just saying, can we make it a little bit better? That's it. That's all my 2 cents is.
I think that we could certainly look at, as the principals put together board reports for next month, what our disciplinary data looks like broken down with some of those demographics, because I certainly wouldn't just make an assumption that it is students of color that are more represented there without that data in front of us.
You're right. I know there are different socioeconomic status and family dynamics and everything else that make it up. But, I mean, I just think that the district has all of these resources and everything that they could do a little bit better for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, my name is Tina Bartholomew, and I'm a teacher here at Danville Primary School. Very proud teacher to be here. All of the retirements that are listed on the agenda tonight, I just want to definitely say thank you to all those teachers. I have 4 daughters of my own, and as I look at those names on that list, I remember discussions at dinner about those teachers and many, many special memories they will always have, and I know that those teachers have touched so many lives in our district. I've taught here since 2001, and it's been a pleasure to work with those teachers in various buildings, various subject areas, and I wish them all well. I'm sure everyone in this room and everyone in our community does, but I just will miss them, and I know many people out there would definitely want to thank them for all that they have done for their children too. So thank you very much. Thank you, teachers.
Thank you, Ms. Bartholomew.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? So there's no presentation or outside guests today. There's no issues, school property supplies. We are on to 7 athletic activities. 7.1, establish high school club. The board will take action to approve Ironman 2717 as an established club at the Danville High School. The club will be at no cost to the district. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay.
Mr. Garman,
Yes.
Mrs. Heater,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak,
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart,
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. 7.2, March and April field trips. The board will take action to approve the March and April field trip list for the 2023-2024 school year as presented.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Heater,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak, Mr. Vognetz,
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart,
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Mr. Garman,
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. 7.3, Athletic Hall of Fame bylaws. The board will take action to approve the updated Athletic Hall of Fame bylaws as presented.
Motion.
Second.
I have 2 questions, comments I'd like to make about this.
Sure.
And I intend to vote in favor, but I would like the committee to at least consider 2 things, or the board, wherever this needs to go. The first one is there's a 10-year requirement for coaches, I think, in the district. Is that right? I didn't bring it with me. That's how I remember that you needed to coach here for 10 years. And I think that effectively rules out a couple people that at least should be considered. I don't want to bylaw people out of this. Like, we just had a coach leave here that won 3 district titles in a row. We've only been to the state semifinal, I think, once in the history. I think he at least deserved consideration. There was another coach about 25 years ago here that was pretty successful. I don't want to name their names, but people probably know who I'm talking about. I don't think he was here 10 years either. We have a swimming program that's won multiple titles. I'm not sure if the coach has been here 10 years or not. Lacrosse, I know she was, but lots of district titles. There's a couple of other sports like that. I think those people at least deserve to be considered by the committee as opposed to kind of, like I said, bylawing them out with that 10-year requirement. So I'll vote for this, but I'd like them to at least consider softening that a little bit so they can be considered. So wherever they go, they go. And the other thing is there's one in there about teams. You need to be a state champion, I believe. We have a great history here in football, boys, girls, basketball, baseball, softball. I don't think we've ever won a state title in any of those sports. So again, essentially, we're bylawing out like the history of a lot of these really good sports. If anybody remembers a state title in any of those sports, I hope we did, but I don't think we ever did. So the ones we have had, fantastic. They should be recognized. Cross country, wrestling years ago, they had a couple of state titles. But to eliminate some of these before discussion just through bylaws, I think is probably something we should consider. Just my opinion. If anybody else has a different opinion, certainly respect it.
Would you like to table it for a revision?
I don't know, whatever you want to do. I just thought it needed to be stated. And I don't, obviously I'm mentioning Coach Brennan. I don't even know Coach Brennan, but I think he at least deserves to be discussed. Coach Dave Francesco years ago was very popular here. I don't know that he was here 10 years, though. I think he at least deserves discussion with these bylaws. They're out. They're out.
Is it specifically tenured?
I think it said 10 years in
Or
Danville.
is
I
it
wish I
10
would have brought
years
it with
from
me.
their last coaching?
You'd have to look at it again.
'Cause
Yeah, I thought that's what it said, Richard. I looked at it,
Okay,
looked
I'll
at it
take-
again, but I did not print it out
I'm
and
in
bring it.
favor of tabling it.
You want to table it?
Yeah.
You want to remove your?
I don't
Yeah,
want
I'll
to
remove
act like I don't appreciate what the committee's doing,
But-
but I'd rather
Yeah.
fix things before they become an issue as opposed to. Yeah.
Yep.
Sure, makes sense.
It does say 10 year. I pulled it up. 10 years of coaching.
And in Danville?
It says any coach with 10 plus years coaching experience at DASD,
Yeah.
and teams do say
Has to be a state champion.
I don't know if the way that it's worded, I think you could potentially interpret it that like more priority would be given, but
Right.
it's certainly a clarifying statement around that. Like
Right.
I don't know that that's totally limited, but we certainly could change the wording to be more open.
That's, it's not up to me. I'm just bringing it up. It's really up to whatever
Yeah,
everyone wants
it
to
makes
do.
sense if you're going to have a Hall of Fame. There'll be people in it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You can't. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, if the rules don't allow people in it, then makes sense.
Also, Wayne, I do want to let you know that we did make the corrections from last month's.
Okay.
We did make all committee members community members.
I think that was something we decided from the start. We
Yeah.
appreciate everybody stepping forward, but we really wanted this to be community-driven. So we're not making value judgments, our employees, on who is better or worse in terms of their history as an athlete. We really have jurisdiction up to about 18 years of age unless they're special education, not people that graduated 20, 25 years ago. Those discussions, to me, should be by the community members. That's, again, my opinion.
So you'll withdraw your?
Yeah, I would like to withdraw.
Okay. And can I have a motion to table?
Sorry.
Can I motion to table now? Motion to table.
Second.
Great. Terry?
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard.
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak.
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz.
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner.
Yes.
Mr. Garman.
Yes.
Mrs. Heater.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. 7-4, out-of-state field trip. The board will take action to approve an out-of-state field trip for the ski club to Greek Peak Ski Resort in Cortland, New York on Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. The trip will be at no cost to the district.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Reichard.
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak.
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz.
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner.
Yes.
Mr. Garman.
Yes.
Mrs. Heater.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. On to academic affairs. 8-1, 2024-2025 calendar, second reading. The board will take action to approve the second reading of the 2024-2025 school calendar as presented. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Umbriak.
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz.
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner.
Yes.
Mr. Garman.
Yes.
Mrs. Heater.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. 8-2, DPS literacy curriculum. The board will take action to approve the first reading of the DPS literacy curriculum as presented. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second, I'm sorry.
Vognetz.
Mr. Vognetz.
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner.
Yes.
Mr. Garman.
Yes.
Mrs. Heater.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard.
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. 2024-2025 course selection guide. The board will take action to approve the 2024-2025 Danville High School course selection guide as presented. Can I get a motion?
What's that? Do we? Want
Did
the
you have
motion?
comment?
I will make a note on this. There is, and I did confer with Jennifer, there is a typographical mistake in the section of course weighting. it says, the way it is written right now is that it says class of 2024 in one column and then 25 and beyond in another column, in a second column. Really what it should read is class of 2025 and then classes of 26, 27, and 28 in the second column. So literally a typographical error, class of 24, this course guide would not even apply to. So it was a merging of documents because we only needed one for all other purposes.
Yeah, it's a major problem if we don't fix that.
Yeah,
because we're gonna
that will
have
be,
to
so
cross-
we are acknowledging that we will correct that, fix that typographical error when it is published, but I did confer with Jennifer and it appears we do not need to amend the agenda. I just want it noted that we will do that.
So I just say, the board will take action to approve 2024-2025 Danville High School course selection guide as presented with minor modification.
One modification.
With one modification, which is a typographical error. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion.
Can I get a second?
I have one comment.
Yes,
I
sir.
think it's only one.
Just one?
Yeah. And again, I'm gonna support this. I still believe, and I've said this for many, many years, going back to my first term in the board, that our prerequisites to the high school are way too restrictive. There's some language I think that makes it a little better this year. There are a few things that say that there is a piece that students need to take a certain course, and then we may use other data like PVOS, I think. I think it should say we shall. Those are very important pieces of data to look at in making those decisions. I know we put in kind of a caveat that it can go to an administrator. We have fantastic teachers at our high school. I have full confidence in them. They've been great for the time that my kids were there. I just think grading is very subjective. I was a classroom teacher. I know that the guy down the hall and the woman down the other way, we taught the same thing, and our grading was a lot different. So to put that much weight on grading in terms of students' choices and parents' choices, I think is not the way it should be done. That's the way I feel about it, but I just think they're a little restrictive, and we should continue to work on that. I think they got a little better this year. I don't think we're there yet.
I would echo, I feel like there are some barriers in place that are not necessarily needed, and that one of the things we want to make sure is that all of our students have access to outstanding opportunities and that we're not restricting those either.
Okay, that's all I had.
All right. Any other comment? Barry?
Mr. Brookhart,
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner,
Yes.
Mr. Garman,
Yes.
Mrs. Heater,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Reichard,
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak, Mr. Vognetz,
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. Nothing in section 9. On to 10, finance. 10-1, finance reports, the reports as presented. Yep.
Sarkalaski.
Just a brief note, budget season is ongoing. Thanks to all the department heads and our building principals. They've submitted all their information, so we'll be going over that in the next 2 months and whittling down our finances.
Fun time.
So I just want to thank all the principals and department heads at this point, and we're moving forward with that. Thank
Great.
you.
Mike, how's earned income tax coming in?
Earned income tax is steady. Obviously, we just got our first payment in December because it's always a quarter behind. It was approximately $2.1 million, which is ahead of our estimates at this point. We budgeted for the year was $7.9 million, so that's a good start for the new fiscal year.
We're kind of at
EIT.
8.4 projected, which would be 500,000 over what we budgeted. Plus, hopefully after January 1st, it goes up. Did that happen last year?
It did last year. Last year we saw the significant jump in the January, but then the following quarter, actually, there was a dip.
And that would be because some people get raises on January 1st, and that would.
The next quarter when it comes in, I'll report to the board then, when I get to our next payment then, so everybody can see.
Thank you.
And Mr. Vognetz had shared that the AFR was presented at the last Finance Committee meeting. Mrs. Faust did put together a bound copy of the AFR for all board members, so you do have, that's why your board packet feels a little fatter today, just so that everyone has that full document.
Any other comment?
I'm going to make one more comment about
Yes,
that.
sir.
And I bring this up all the time, and there's a reason why. Because prior administration, we get into this, Sandy, you probably remember this, and even with the last person that came in and gave us a report in the acting role about property taxes and why we're sometimes slow to move on property taxes and want to increase them here. And the reason I'm always very hesitant to do that is because the earned income tax here goes up so rapidly some years. And if you track that, a lot of times you find that the property taxes are maybe from the outside in another district, it would look like they're necessary, and here they're not because the earned income tax is so robust many years. We've seen years like we're on track to be 700,000 to 800,000 above projections possibly. Maybe not quite that much, but that's more than you get out of a mill of taxes, I believe, in this district. So I think we always have to keep that in mind as we budget, and the burden on taxpayers in the community. And that, yeah, maybe the property taxes aren't quite as high, but we're paying earned income taxes, which are obviously extremely high here. Thank you.
All right, 10-2, December financial reports. And there's nothing to discuss. 10-3, December, January cash receipts. And 10-4, bills for payment. The board will take action to approve the bills for payment for December 21st, 2023 through January 30th, 2024 as presented.
Motion.
Second.
Yep.
Thank you. No, Garmin.
Oh, sorry.
Dr. Faulkner.
Yes.
Mr. Garmin.
Yes.
Mrs. Heater.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard.
Abstain.
Mr. Umbriak.
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz.
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. 10-5, donation. The board will take action to accept the donation of a pavilion from the Danville Business Alliance and the 1994 Charles B. D'Agostine Foundation at the middle school with an approximate project value of $80,000. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Garmin.
Yes.
Mrs. Heater.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard.
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak.
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz.
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes.
I'd certainly like to just thank Mr. Haravi for his work in putting together that grant so that that could be possible.
And I'd just like to put out in the world, there are two matching that I am going to be trying to get money for. One is to re-up the swim lessons for all the second graders. So we need to try to source an additional $5,000 in order to continue that program and to make it possible. I'll approach the health systems like I did previously, but the budgets are much tighter now, so we may have to look to other sources to try to source that $5,000. And as promised, the speaker at the middle school was sold, right? And so there's matching funds that I need to find a way to source for the middle school, for the improvement of the middle school, correct? Okay, let's talk. Preferable to paying out of pocket if I can't source it. On to 11. 11.1, personal consent items. The board will take action to approve personal consent items 11.2 through 11.24. Would anyone like to remove any of those items?
I would like to remove 11.19, 11.20 for their accomplishments. Just
Okay,
to be able
to
to
acknowledge them?
Yep, just to acknowledge them individually.
Perfect. 11.19, just looking to see what they are. Yeah. And 11.20.
And certainly in that group of people, you'll see a lot of retirements. We do have a retirement incentive in our current teacher's contract, and I would just echo what Mrs. Bartholomew was sharing. We've got a lot of really talented names on the agenda this evening, and we're so thankful for the commitment they've had to the students of Danville.
I also want to add to that, there is a lot of retirements in there that shaped my education here at Danville. So it was kind of sad seeing it. And I mean, there was one on here that I was her first class. 5th grade was her first year being here. And boy, did we give her a rough time. But you know what? I mean, I see her out in the community and everything. It's been that long. And I appreciate what they've done for me personally. So
That's one way to say we're getting older, Rich.
yes.
All right, can I get
I'd like to remove 1124 too.
1124. Looking to see what that is. Okay.
It's for individual vote.
Okay. We're good? All right. Can I have?
I'll give a motion if you want.
Oh, yeah.
We have
Does
to go.
someone want a motion?
We're going with the consent items with the motion, or
Consent
are we
items with
talking
the
about the
motion.
other ones? Okay,
Yep.
yeah, I'll give
With
a
the
motion.
removal of 1119, 1120, and 1124.
Sure. Motion.
Second. Great. Terry?
Mrs. Heater. Yes. Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard.
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak.
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz.
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner.
Yes.
Mr. Garman.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. So I guess we move to 1119. Uh, 1119, resignation. The board will take action to accept the resignation of Jeff Brandon as girls and boys cross-country coach effective January 10th, 2024. Shall we do the motions first, and then we'll have comment if you want?
Yeah, motion to approve.
Second.
All right, any comment?
Just, I mean, Jeff Brandt was a very successful cross-country coach here. I mean, what, 2 times? 3 times? State champs here, multiple district championships.
Yep.
I mean, he's shaped a lot of boys and girls throughout his tenure here.
Yeah.
Amazing career. He absolutely deserves to be commended for his accomplishments. We appreciate all the teachers as well. Kind of remiss in talking about it one motion late, but yeah, Jeff did some amazing things here. State titles, state individual champions. He was a great runner himself, and just an all-around good guy too. I always felt from my interactions with him.
I assume he's been here 10 years, so he can get in the Hall of Fame.
I think we're safely.
He's been here since 1976.
That's a joke, if that wasn't clear.
I never ran cross country, but I did have him as a teacher in middle school. And I can still, to this day, at the ripe age of 30, I know, picture him walking down the hallway every day, leaving lunch with a half a gallon of milk in his hand every day. So that's, I mean, I don't have any sports memories with him, but I can still picture that to this day.
Any other comment?
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard.
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak.
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz.
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart.
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner.
Yes.
Mr. Garman.
Yes.
Mrs. Heater.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
I mean, I kind of feel like I should vote no and that he should have to stay. But I'll vote yes. So 1120, resignation. The board will take action to accept the resignation of Melissa Brandon as girls and boys cross-country coach effective January 10th, 2024. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Board comment?
I mean, the only comment I have is, praise her for supporting Mr. Brandt as long.
Yeah, he's not here tonight, and I can't speak for him, but I'm sure he'd give her an awful lot of credit for what he accomplished. I think it's pretty safe to to say that. So
She's
yeah,
had-
great team, great for
She's
kids.
had a long-standing commitment to Danville cross country as well. She actually, so I'll date myself, Mr. Garman, but she started at Mahoning Cooper Elementary School when I was in the 4th grade as a 3rd grade teacher there. So I just missed having her. But she has served the Danville community for a long time, and she started as cross-country coach when she came on board as a teacher and met Mr. Brandt and got married and became a cross-country family.
I have to admit, when I saw this, the first question I asked is, why are we losing 2 cross-country coaches? What have we done? Because I didn't initially realize. So.
Husband and wife.
Husband and wife.
Retiring together.
That's very sweet.
They have both assured us that they will still be highly visible at events here in Danville, so they're not
Yep.
completely
I do have a question. I mean, they are retiring from their position, but I do see them on as volunteer, correct? As a volunteer list?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just making, I just saw that,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to clarify on that.
Good. Any other comment? Carrie?
Mr. Reichard. Mr. Umbriak.
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz.
Yes.
Mr. Burkhart.
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner.
Yes.
Mr. Garmin.
Yes.
Mrs. Heater.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. 1124, intermittent FMLA. The board will take action to approve intermittent FLA for employee 106298 beginning November 15th, 2023 through November 14th, 2024. The employee is eligible up to 12 weeks of FMLA or the remaining balance of FML leave available as per FML guidelines. Just understand we are required by law to approve. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any comment that is actually acceptable within the context of discussing a personnel issue? Of note, this is only FMLA approval. This is not anything else.
Right.
Carrie?
Mr. Umbriak. Mr. Vognetz.
Yes.
Mr. Burkhart.
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner.
Yes.
Mr. Garmin.
Yes.
Mrs. Heater.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard.
Yes.
Dr. Green.
Yes. Everyone vote. All right. 1125, coaches. The board will take action to approve the 2023-2024 spring coaching list as presented. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Comment?
Make a quick comment on coaches. It's too bad that sometimes young people don't understand the positive influence that coaches, most teachers have on them. And I can speak for myself, not raised in this area. I was raised in Hazleton. I know that my Little League coaches were influence on me as well as teachers, so I want to stress the fact that coaches and teachers, and you have the great opportunity to positively influence young people. Thank you.
Any other comment?
I just have a comment. As I looked at the list of coaches, we had spoken at athletics committee about coaches that were on the list. I was just wondering if those coaches were spoken to, or they were just put on the list, or what the decision was with that.
So in conferring with several people, obviously.
Hang on, Jennifer may have something to say.
Is this something that we need to have a executive session for personnel? I don't know the.
Are there other personnel items that need to be discussed also? Because that came up. Is this the only thing that might happen, or did you have
Those
more?
could all be after. I think an answer to Mr. Garmin's question that could perhaps be public and okay is that those conversations will happen if there is board approval. That will become a condition.
That's all I need.
Are you satisfied, Mr. Garmin?
Yeah. Yep.
Perfect. Any other comment?
I have a comment, but I think I'm going to hold it to the end. It's somewhat pertinent. It's about committees and the authority of committees to make agenda decisions. So let's hold it until board concerns.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Harry?
Mr. Vognetz.
No.
Mr. Burkhart.
No.
Dr. Faulkner.
Yes.
Mr. Garmin.
Yes.
Mrs. Heater.
No.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Reichard?
No.
Mr. Umbriak?
Yes.
Dr. Green?
Yes. What was the final tally?
Motion passes.
5-4.
Five yes. 4 no.
1126, tax collection. The board will take action to approve the tax collection stipend of $1,500 to Beth Norman for the fiscal year 2023-2024. Note, this is not new and has been paid to this employee in prior years. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Burkhart?
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner?
Yes.
Mr. Garman?
Yes.
Mrs. Heater?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Reichard?
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak? Mr. Vognetz?
Yes.
Dr. Green?
Yes. 12-1, expulsion. The board will take action to approve the expulsion agreement for student F1194 for a minimum of 30 days beginning January 19, 2024 in accordance with the board policy number 233, suspension and expulsion. Can I get a motion?
Second. Is this something we've previously discussed? I thought so. I want to make sure it was the same one. Okay.
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner?
Yes.
Mr. Garman?
Yes.
Mrs. Heater?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Reichard?
Yes.
Mr. Umbriak?
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz?
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart?
Yes.
Dr. Green?
Yes. 13-1, 2023-2024 bus driver list. The board will take action upon the recommendation of the superintendent to improve the bus driver list for the 2023-2024 school year as presented, pending the receipt of all required clearances and documentation.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Garman?
Yes.
Mrs. Heater?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Reichard?
Abstain.
Mr. Umbriak?
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz?
Yes.
Mr. Brookhart?
Yes.
Dr. Faulkner?
Yes.
Dr. Green?
Yes. 14, board concerns and items for next agenda meeting. Dr.
Yeah,
Burkhart.
I brought something up. We have a committee structure here, and the committees, I think, all have 3 people. And I don't think we have anything defined as to voting procedures within the committee and whether things automatically go on the board agenda if there's 2 in favor and 1 opposed, or exactly how that works, because I do think that we're getting into some issues here at times that I don't want to use a term that's not professional, but it does become kind of a wild, wild west approach here sometimes with the discussions. Like I heard that most of us were in favor of something at the academic affairs, and then I know that there was something that there were 2 in favor and 1 opposed, but we moved on it anyway. And I just think that maybe we need to start talking procedures. I don't think that we necessarily need to spend the night on it, but if, whether it's Sandy or Dr. Need, Dr. Green, Mr. Moser that comes back with some more structure for committees, it might be a good idea. And I'm not going to get real specific about the coach vote, but it's, you know, you don't like voting no for a lot of people when it may just be a small portion of it that you're not supporting, because I just don't know that that's the best practice and how we stop that through the committees to the board, but that's something I thought needed to be said.
Do you want to set up a working group to sort of think that through? I mean, I hate to suggest a committee to talk about committees.
Well, Sandy, it didn't just come up. I've been
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
about it for a long time. Like, we
Yeah.
have these discussions, and sometimes things don't even get to us from the committees. I think we're doing better with that.
Yeah.
But what exactly is the authority of a committee? Because in the end, Dr. Need sets the agenda and you review it.
Right.
So what clout does a committee have, or do they? I think that's something the board has to decide, and our policy doesn't say anything about it.
Is that something that is modeled out in policy in other districts, like the specific?
Committees aren't something that, I'm retired, I can say this. the function of committees in public schools in Pennsylvania is not something that we can be proud of, I don't believe, as school boards or as an entity in the state. They just don't necessarily have an awful lot of structure. And a lot of times they're held because it's a place people can talk about something and they feel like there's not going to be anybody there. Now, we do get audiences here at Danville. I know other districts, they don't, so we'll talk about it in committee.
Right.
And the transparency gets lost a little bit. Maybe Jennifer needs to weigh in too. Go ahead.
I also hate to bring this up because one of the solutions is to go back to a committee of the whole.
Well, yeah, I know.
and I know how much we love that, at least from previous experience, but it's.
Well, and Richard brought up, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Richard
interrupt you,
especially
but
loves that.
in your meeting, the finance committee's tomorrow night, and what else? Athletics?
Athletic
I mean, what's the point of having a meeting the night after the board meeting? That doesn't really, to me, I don't think it makes sense. Maybe somebody else sees it. But Jennifer, do you have anything to add?
I was just going to add that Policy 006 only addresses the agenda preparation for regular board meetings. It
Right.
doesn't address anything relative to the preparation of the agenda
That's-
for the committees. So.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was
Yeah.
going.
Yeah,
There's
so-
just nothing.
No.
There's nothing governing us.
To address specifically the meeting tomorrow night, a unique situation where we're first Wednesday.
Yeah.
That committee is second
No, I know that
Thursday.
the
And just the way the month
calendar
of
quirk that-
February fell, we are trying to be consistent to have public attendance at committees.
Yeah.
So like trying to hold true to second Thursday. So
Right.
a unique kind of February situation.
Mhm.
Certainly
But-
open to discussion about the concept of committee of the whole that happened prior to me coming here, and I think that maybe board members didn't feel like they could lead their part as well as they should. So open to that discussion so everybody could hear all the topics, and ahead of time we could plan which committee needed sort of more time. So I'm certainly open to that discussion should we want to move forward with that.
I mean, I'll be honest, I thought the committee as a whole, when we tried it before, it did not work at all. And I don't think it does work. I mean, I'll be honest, it's almost like another board meeting, except for you can't vote on anything.
I guess it might make sense to spend some time thinking a little bit about
Yeah.
committee structure and what
Yeah.
the committee should actually be, like how it should actually function.
Yeah, we don't have to decide tonight. It's just
No.
something I think we should continue to try to do a little bit better, maybe.
I think that makes some sense.
Yeah.
Definitely makes some sense. Other board concerns?
One thing, and I apologize, I've forgotten your name, Mr. Brown mentioned in the beginning was sort of posing the question, is there disproportionality in discipline referrals for certain demographic groups? I think you look at the national level, the data is pretty clear that on average, that is the case. There are certain groups that seem to be disproportionately targeted for discipline referrals. And I think that your question is entirely valid, which is that if we don't know, I'm not saying that that's the case, right? Because I don't have the data in front of me.
I'm not saying
No, and I'm not, right, absolutely not.
because of the
Yep.
just need a little more.
And I think if we, to your point, if we are able to look at the data and there is disproportionality, it's something to be discussed. So we just need to know what that data is. And I appreciate you, this is only the second time I've seen you at the meeting, but I appreciate you coming and speaking because I do think that all the things that you have brought up are important for us to consider. Absolutely.
Data's available for us to do that kind of review.
Yes.
We know those things.
We can do it. And maybe that, speaking of committees, maybe that is something that is discussed in academic affairs when we're talking about discipline. I think we'll figure out the structure. I'm waiting on you, Wayne, to figure out the committee structure, but.
Yeah, our administrators are preparing monthly board reports where there's a discipline section, so you can always see the latest attendance data, academic data, those kind of things. So we can just take our discipline data and break that down further, and so we can have that prepared for next month and be a part of our board reports.
Any other issues?
The agenda item 1124, was that changed from what it was when it was put online?
Yes, that's something that will be talked
Was-
about in executive session.
Okay, I was just clarifying, because my printout didn't match the agenda printout.
Just one thing, I don't believe we announced the executive session prior to the board meeting. I figured you were going
was
to
about
announce.
to, yeah.
So that's why. Yeah.
So I'm going to do public comment first, so the public doesn't have to stay if they don't want to. And then we are going to go into executive session to discuss personnel and
think we have a
contract
public
issues.
comment.
So 15, public comment.
I always get a shaky voice. You guys are so, make me so nervous. I want to thank you for approving the out-of-state Greek Peak trip for Ski Club. These kids are going to be so excited. So, thank you.
Great.
It's going to be a great opportunity for them. And although some of you are glad that groundhog is predicting an early spring, we still want another month of snow. Just so you know. Thank you.
Additional public comment. No? So we are going to adjourn to a bathroom break and an executive session. So, and we will be back after to adjourn the meeting. I can't adjourn the meeting first, can I?
Yeah,
Oh,
you
I
can
can't.
adjourn the meeting.
I'll adjourn the
No
meeting.
voting items.
Because there's no other voting
No voting.
items.
Perfect. I thought we had to come back and,
Girl, you motion. Richard
great.
That's usually how it is.
Does anyone want a motion for adjournment?
Darrell second, Richard
Second.
second.
All right. You sure? You don't want to stay?